Welcome back. Before the break, I had a conversation with Dr. Theo Boer, who's a professor of healthcare ethics in the Netherlands, and he touched on something, David, that I'd like to get your reaction to. Just before the break, he said that there was a bill that was tabled for euthanasia for people 74 and older. And by the way, it's a bill, it's not the law. But what was interesting is there's majority support for this over there. Your thoughts?
The question is influence, and the question is the rights of an individual versus other things that are going on. And I've always come back to what else is going on. So let me just throw this out because you may not be aware of this, but 3 or 4 weeks ago, a professor of Japanese extraction, and I have a reason for saying that, at Harvard, suggested that the best way for Japan to deal with its elderly crisis, Japan is the oldest population in the world, the highest percentage of people over the age of 75 in the world, and the very serious pension problem, because you got all fewer and fewer younger workers, more and more older workers getting pensions, and the system can't do it. He came out and said that the solution was for the elderly to commit mass suicide. He advocated, he used seppuku, which is the whole samurai sword. That was a bit metaphorical. But a Japanese politician had said a year earlier that why don't the elderly do us all a favor and die off? So is that where this goes? Now, obviously, at the individual level, yes, it's your rights. What right does society have to step in? And that's the tension here. That's why CARP's concerns lie maybe outside the immediate MAiD stuff into the wider thing. So to intervene with your decision, for example, it is reasonable for society to say, we want it to be your decision. It protects you from being coerced or railroaded and there are safeguards there, which I think you would support, that make sure that the person really wants this. But on the other hand, what you said earlier, Marissa, maybe when I was 73, I didn't want to be that little old lady stroking her teddy bear, but maybe by the time I am that little old lady, I'm happy and I don't want somebody to kill me and wave around a form I signed 20 years earlier saying that, I want euthanasia. And then I think we're going out for dinner tonight, as your guest from the Netherlands said, and they're killing me practically forcibly. So these are very tricky decisions, and I think it means we have to look at MAiD and the regulations, but we also have to look at the wider context.
It's a difference between, we're talking about rights, individual rights, as if we know the context of each person's decision. We're not talking about the duties we have as a society to provide the support people need. The coffee case was a terrible example, but a perfect one of what happens because we change in these situations, whether it's MS or Parkinson's, whether it's post-stroke or dementia, we have good and bad days. And do we want, as a society, to support the good days? Much of this has been put forward since Daniel Callahan in 1991 as a cost economics. They're too expensive. And we saw this in the Rassouli case, where the doctors didn't want to treat Mr. Rassouli, Han Rassouli, because he was at that time unconscious and too expensive. Let's put the money elsewhere. Do we want the question of your care and your life and your support to be one of what society is going to pay for? Or do we want to make society, writing our legislators, saying, this is what's important? We don't want to hear what it costs. We want to hear what we need and how we're going to get it.
I just want to come back at that, Tom. Sorry for interrupting here, Marissa, but we're talking here the difference between what a person, an individual, may want and a societal preference. And I think there are vast differences, David, as you pointed out.
I think we agree.
And we need to describe, for example, I'll make this quite simple. I have seen people suffering, remain really suffering, painful suffering, and somebody denies them assistance because we do not have the psychiatric techniques to support that person. We do not have the place to support that person. We don't have the means. Take a look at healthcare in this country generally. We don't have the means to support the general population, and you're going to allow me to continue to suffer because the whole world out there hasn't caught up yet? I'm sorry. I count. Me.
Helen, the challenge is creating a policy, one policy for all. Can we ever get it right?
Yeah, I think we can. I mean, you know, we're not at that point yet. So there's a lot of discussion to be had. There's a lot of consultation that has to happen. And, you know, at the end of the day, and I'll keep circling back to this, and I know it's only one small element, but at the end of the day, and it's what Ron's saying, it's up to him.
All right, hold that thought. We'll be right back when we return.